So, arthritis. It's been a couple weeks now since the end of the holiday celebrations, and I'm sure some of you can relate to this, but I've had multiple people, some clients, some friends, some family, talking about how they're more achy now than before the holidays, or even during the holidays, they were really, really achy and they're starting to improve now. And the reason why this is important is because on more than one occasion over my tenure, you could say as a personal trainer, you hear things like, oh, that's just my arthritis. And it has sort of a note of this is this just is the way things are. And there's nothing really I can do about it. And I think that this is sort of like a hopeless idea where just because you have pain, if you think about arthritis pain on a scale of 1 to 10, and let's say typically it's at like a 7 when you first wake up. Well, the question you should ask yourself, is there anything I can do to make it a 4 out of 10? Meaning you're not curing the pain, you're not getting rid of your arthritis totally, but you're taking steps to make sure that there aren't extra things that are irritating it. So typically as we age, a lot of things that can happen due to all kinds of different factors, but we can get a wearing away of our cartilage or a thinning of our ligaments and tendons. And so joints or bones can end up grinding up against each other due to dysfunction. And so they're hitting each other at different angles. There's all kinds of factors, like I said. But once that cartilage is gone and you start to get this bone on bone condition, that starts to get irritated and that can cause inflammation. You start to get an inflamed joint. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that the things you're eating, the sleep habits that you have, the stress, all the different things that we know affect pain, that affect your inflammation. I mean, inflammation is pain in a lot of different ways. They're not synonymous, but it's definitely related. But just because you have that bone on bone doesn't mean that there aren't other things that are affecting your pain. And so the way that you should think about it is, are there things that I can do to bring this pain from a 7 out of 10 to a 4 out of 10? Now, the way that I think about it is try to be mindful of when you're not in pain. This is super important because the more you can pay attention to when you're not in pain, the more you can start to change your story of I'm always in pain. I like to use this example because people will say this often. When it rains, I get a headache. Well, how many times has it rained and you did not get a headache? Okay, so now we have some progress because I would venture to guess that it's rained a lot in your life and you didn't even have a blip of a headache. You had absolutely no reaction. Now, I'm not saying that the rain isn't affecting your headaches. I'm just saying if you have the expectation that every time it rains, you're going to have a headache, then guess what? You're going to have a headache. And human psychology is just super powerful like that. And so if you view other pain reactions, pain responses the same way, you don't have to be in pain. Like you don't have to be at a 7 or a 6 out of 10 pain just because you have arthritis. And if you pay attention to when you're not in pain, you can get an idea of what are the habits and behaviors that I'm participating in that are helping my pain ease up. This goes into food journaling. So shocker, spoiler alert, going into food journaling here in a moment, but this is why food journaling is very important, but not just journaling about your negative symptoms where you wake up and you feel puffy and you're hurting and you have all these things, didn't sleep well, but also like if you're really journaling consistently, you'll take note of the day where I woke up at 6 a.m. I feel energized. I feel alert. I have minimal pain, 1 out of 10. And if that becomes a trend over a few days, now you can look back in your journal and be like, okay, during this stretch of time, I was not in pain. What was I doing? How was I eating? What were my behaviors? And when you figure that out, then you keep doing those things, just like you would look at what's causing pain. Okay, what food? Oh, I ate this chili pepper and it caused me a lot of pain the next day. You stop eating the chili pepper. There's all kinds of foods. With me, it's avocados and almonds. I can't eat those foods. I would not know that if it weren't for food journaling. And so there are foods you are eating right now that you think are healthy for you that aren't necessarily healthy for you. Just because they're healthy for one person doesn't mean that they're healthy for all people. And in fact, there's even more research coming out now that certain populations from different regions of the world can handle certain foods differently. Certain populations might be able to eat rice better than others, might be able to handle rice better than others. Other populations might not be able to handle rice and they might handle fat better than others. Populations that eat a lot of blubber, whale blubber comes to mind. Their body is likely adapted in a way that allows them to handle that huge load of fat. So the takeaway here is just because you're in pain doesn't mean you have to be in pain, and pay attention to when you're not in pain. And the reason why I brought this up is because there's someone I was talking to where the holidays hit, they were in a lot of pain. And I won't tell their whole story and I won't name them, but they were in a lot of pain. We were working together. Before the holidays hit, they were perfectly fine. And when I say perfectly fine, I mean little to no pain whatsoever. And then all of a sudden the holidays hit, they have this pain stuff coming back. And then here comes the story. Oh, that's just my arthritis. Well, what about before the holidays? Was that still just your arthritis? Why weren't you hurting 4 weeks ago? So if you pay attention to that stuff, it empowers you. It puts you in control and allows you to also adopt a more optimistic outlook of like, maybe it's not hopeless. Maybe there is some hope for me. Maybe I don't have to be in excruciating pain all the time. But step one is paying attention. So if you are a food journaler, don't just write down the bad stuff. Write down when you're feeling good. It'll help you stay optimistic. And if you're not food journaling and you are in pain, and if you're not food journaling and you have any sort of digestive condition like colitis or Crohn's disease, I would implore you to start a food journal. It's one of the best tools that you could possibly start and use to help you start to make progress towards a more positive and uplifting life.